The November wind cut through Manhattan's Upper East Side like a blade, sending dead leaves skittering across the wet pavement outside Cristallo Rosso. Maya Torres pulled her thin coat tighter as she hurried through the restaurant's employee entrance, already 10 minutes late for the Friday night shift, the busiest night of the week. "You're late again," Gregory, the floor manager, snapped as Maya rushed past him toward the staff room. His voice carried that particular blend of annoyance and resignation he'd perfected over 15 years in the industry. "The subway. Save it. Table assignments are on the board. You've got section 3 tonight." He paused, lowering his voice. "And Maya, don't screw up. We have important guests coming in." Maya nodded, quickly changing into her crisp white shirt and black vest. Her reflection in the locker room mirror showed what 3 years of double shifts had done to her. Dark circles under her brown eyes, cheekbones a bit too prominent, honey-colored hair pulled back in a severe bun. At 26, she looked tired. She felt ancient. The restaurant hummed with elegant chaos. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables dressed in burgundy linens. The scent of truffle oil, aged wine, and expensive cologne mingled in the air. Cristallo Rosso wasn't just a restaurant. It was where Manhattan's elite came to see and be seen, where deals worth millions were negotiated over plates of handmade pasta. "Table 12 needs water," Lisa whispered as Maya emerged onto the floor. Her friend and fellow waitress had been working here since the place opened 5 years ago. And don't look now, but Dante Russo just walked in. Maya's hands stilled on the water pitcher. "Who?" Lisa's eyes widened. "You really don't know? Dante Russo. He practically owns half of Little Italy and parts of Brooklyn. They say he's connected, like, seriously connected. Mafia connected. That's just rumors. Rumors that get people killed for repeating them," Lisa hissed. "He comes in every few months. Always gets the private corner booth. Gregory's been nervous all day." Maya glanced toward the entrance. A group of men in expensive suits had just entered, moving with the kind of casual confidence that came from never having to worry about consequences. But her eyes were drawn immediately to the man at the center. Dante Russo was tall, over 6 feet, with the kind of build that suggested he could be dangerous if necessary but didn't need to prove it. His dark hair was cut short, streaked with just enough gray at the temples to suggest he was in his late 30s. Sharp jawline, intense dark eyes that seemed to catalog everything they saw. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Maya made in 3 months, and he moved through the restaurant like he owned it. Maybe he did. Maya wouldn't be surprised. "Section 3, Lisa muttered. "That's you, honey. Good luck." Maya's stomach tightened. The private corner booth was in her section. Gregory materialized beside her, his face flushed. "Maya, you're serving Mr. Russo's table tonight. Don't try to make conversation. Don't ask unnecessary questions. Be efficient. Be invisible. And for God's sake, don't make any mistakes." "I never do," Maya said, more confidently than she felt. "Tonight you really can't." Gregory's hand gripped her shoulder briefly. "I mean it." The party of 6 settled into the corner booth. Dante took the seat facing the restaurant, the power position, while his associates arranged themselves around him. Maya noticed how they all deferred to him, how conversations paused when he spoke, how even their body language suggested submission. She approached with menus and a professional smile firmly in place. "Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Cristallo Rosso. Can I start you with something to drink?" Dante's eyes lifted to her face. For a moment, Maya felt like a specimen under a microscope, examined, evaluated, catalogued. His gaze was intelligent and unsettling. "Bring us the 2015 Brunello di Montalcino," he said. His voice was surprisingly smooth, with just a trace of an Italian accent that suggested family roots, rather than foreign birth. "2 bottles to start." "Excellent choice, sir." Maya returned to the wine cellar with steady steps, though her heart hammered. She'd served plenty of wealthy, powerful men before. This was no different. Just another table, another shift, another step toward paying off the mountain of medical debt her mother's cancer treatment had left behind. The evening progressed smoothly. Maya brought the wine, took their orders, served appetizers of burrata and prosciutto, followed by pasta courses that the kitchen prepared with artistic precision. She was good at her job, efficient without being intrusive, attentive without being hovering. Dante's table was discussing business in low voices, speaking in careful euphemisms that might sound innocent to a casual listener, but clearly meant something else entirely to them. Maya heard mentions of shipments and territories, and negotiations with the Brooklyn family. She tried not to listen. The less she knew, the safer she was. The main courses arrived. Ossobuco, branzino, a massive bistecca alla fiorentina that required its own cart. Maya worked smoothly, coordinating with the kitchen staff to ensure everything arrived at the perfect temperature. She was reaching across the table to refill Dante's wine glass when it happened. One of his associates, a thick-necked man with gold rings on every finger, shifted in his seat unexpectedly. His shoulder bumped Maya's arm just as she was pouring. The wine bottle tilted, and a stream of deep red Brunello splashed across the pristine white tablecloth and directly onto Dante Russo's lap, staining his expensive charcoal trousers. The table went silent. Maya froze, the bottle still in her hand, watching the dark red stain spread across fabric that probably cost more than her monthly rent. I'm so sorry, she stammered, immediately grabbing her service towel. I'll get club soda, I can— You stupid bitch! The thick-necked man who'd bumped her shot to his feet. Do you have any idea who you just— Marco, sit down, Dante said quietly, but the man ignored him. No, boss. This disrespectful little— Marco's hand shot out and grabbed Maya's wrist, squeezing hard enough to make her gasp. Do you know how much that suit costs? You're going to pay for— Something inside Maya snapped. Maybe it was the pain in her wrist. Maybe it was the 3 years of swallowing her pride, of accepting mistreatment from customers who thought their money gave them the right to treat her as less than human. Maybe it was the exhaustion, the debt, the grief over her mother, the unfairness of a life that kept kicking her when she was already down. Maybe it was just that she'd finally had enough. Her free hand came up fast and connected with Dante Russo's face in a resounding slap that echoed through the sudden silence of the restaurant. The entire room froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Even the ambient music seemed to quiet. Every eye in Cristallo Rosso turned toward the corner booth where a waitress had just slapped one of New York's most dangerous men. Maya's palm stung. Dante's head had snapped to the side from the force of the blow, and a red mark was already forming on his cheek. Oh God, what had she done? Marco released her wrist, stepping back in shock. The other men at the table had gone perfectly still, their expressions ranging from disbelief to horror. Through the kitchen window, Maya could see Gregory's face, white as a sheet. Dante slowly turned his head back to face her. His dark eyes were unreadable, his expression carved from stone. Maya waited for the explosion, for the violence, for whatever terrible thing was about to happen. Instead, something unexpected flickered across Dante's face. His lips curved into a smile, slow, cold, and somehow more terrifying than anger would have been. You've got guts, he said softly, his voice carrying in the absolute silence. I like that. He reached into his jacket, and Maya flinched, but he only pulled out a leather wallet. With deliberate movements, he extracted a stack of $100 bills and laid them on the wine-stained tablecloth. Maya counted at least 50 bills, $5,000. Then he pulled out a business card, black with silver lettering, and wrote something on the back before placing it on top of the money. For the trouble, Dante said, standing. He was tall enough that Maya had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact, and for having the courage to do what most people only dream of. He buttoned his suit jacket, his movements casual as if nothing unusual had just occurred. Boss, you're not really going to let her, Marco began, but Dante silenced him with a look. We're leaving. Gentlemen? The men scrambled to their feet, throwing uncertain glances between their boss and Maya. They filed out of the restaurant behind Dante, who walked with the same unhurried confidence he'd entered with, as if being slapped in public was just another Friday evening. At the door, he paused and looked back at Maya one more time. That same cold smile crossed his face. Soon, he said, and then he was gone. The restaurant erupted in whispered conversation. Gregory rushed over, his face cycling through shock, anger, and terror. Maya, what the hell did you just— Do you have any idea what you've done? That was Dante Russo. He could have you. Gregory couldn't even finish the sentence. Too many terrible possibilities crowding his mind. Maya stood frozen, staring at the money and the business card on the table. With trembling hands, she picked up the card. The front read simply, Dante Russo, with a phone number. On the back, in bold masculine handwriting, was a single word. Soon. You need to leave, Gregory said, his voice shaking. Take your things and go. I can't— Maya, I'm sorry, but I can't have you working here anymore. It's not safe. For you or for us. Maya nodded numbly. She walked to the back in a daze, changed out of her uniform, and stuffed the money and business card into her purse. $5,000, more than she made in 3 months. Blood money? Payment for her silence? A final gift before something terrible happened to her? She slipped out the employee entrance into the cold November night. The wind had picked up, carrying the promise of rain. Maya pulled out her phone to call an Uber, but her hands were shaking too badly to type. She'd just slapped a mafia boss, in front of his men, in front of dozens of witnesses. What the hell happened now? A black sedan was parked across the street, its engine running, dark windows revealing nothing. Maya's heart hammered as she realized someone inside might be watching her. Soon, the card had said. Maya turned and walked quickly toward the subway, her breath coming in short gasps, the card burning like a brand in her purse. She didn't look back, but she felt eyes following her all the way down the street. Her life, she realized with absolute certainty, would never be the same. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat on the narrow bed in her studio apartment in Queens, staring at the business card on her nightstand. The single lamp cast long shadows across the cramped space, barely 400 square feet that somehow had to function as bedroom, living room, and kitchen all at once. The radiator clanked and hissed, struggling against the November cold seeping through the single-pane window. Soon. What did that mean? Soon he'd send someone to hurt her? Soon she'd disappear like people in mob movies? Soon her body would wash up in the East River? Maya's phone buzzed. Lisa. OMG, are you okay? Everyone's talking about what happened. Gregory fired you? Call me. Maya turned the phone face down. She couldn't talk about this. Couldn't explain what she didn't understand herself. Why had she done it? Why had she slapped one of the most dangerous men in New York? Because Marco had grabbed her. Because she was tired of being grabbed, yelled at, disrespected by men who thought their money or power gave them the right to treat her like property. Because for one brief, insane moment, she'd forgotten to be afraid. Now the fear came rushing back tenfold. She pulled her laptop onto the bed and typed Dante Russo into the search bar. Her hand still trembled slightly. The results were interesting. Not much solid information, mostly speculation and carefully worded news articles. A photo from a charity gala showed Dante in a tuxedo, flanked by city officials and business leaders. The caption identified him as a prominent real estate investor and restaurateur, but the comments section told a different story. Everyone knows what he really is. My cousin's friend worked at one of his businesses, said people who cross him tend to have accidents. The Russo family has controlled Little Italy for 3 generations. Dante took over after his father died 10 years ago. Maya clicked deeper. An old news article from 2015. Alleged crime boss acquitted in federal racketeering case. A photo showed a younger Dante leaving a courthouse, his lawyer speaking to reporters while Dante himself remained stone-faced and silent. Another article from 2018. 4 men hospitalized after altercation at Brooklyn warehouse. The warehouse was owned by a company that after several layers of corporate shells traced back to Russo Holdings. No charges were ever filed. A society page from just last month showed Dante at a museum fundraiser, a stunning woman in a red dress on his arm. The caption didn't name her. Maya noticed how even in the photo other people gave him space like he carried an invisible force field of danger. She slammed the laptop shut. This was a mistake. Knowing more only made it worse. Dawn broke gray and cold over Queens. Maya hadn't slept at all. She made coffee with hands that had finally stopped shaking and tried to figure out what to do. She had $5,000 in cash hidden in her underwear drawer, more money than she'd ever had at once. But she also didn't have a job anymore, and she might have a target on her back. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Maya stared at it for 3 rings before answering. Hello? Maya Torres? A woman's voice, professional and cool. Yes? Please hold for Mr. Russo. Maya's heart stopped. Before she could hang up, a familiar smooth voice came through the line. Good morning, Maya. Did you sleep well? She couldn't speak. Her throat had closed up. I'm going to assume that's a no, Dante continued, a hint of amusement in his tone. I have that effect on people. Listen, we need to talk, face to face. I don't think that's... It wasn't a request. His voice remained pleasant, but steel underlaid the words. I'm sending a car to your address at 10 o'clock this morning. Be ready. How do you know where I know everything about you, Maya. Your address, your mother's medical bills, my condolences, by the way, your student loans, the fact that you're now unemployed because of last night's incident, everything. Terror and anger warred in Maya's chest. Are you threatening me? No. I'm offering you an opportunity. 10 o'clock. Don't be late. The line went dead. Maya sat frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear. He knew where she lived. He knew about her mother, about her debts. How long had he been looking into her? Since last night, or before? At 9:45, Maya stood by her window, watching the street below. She'd dressed carefully. Jeans, a simple sweater, boots. Nothing too formal, nothing that suggested she was trying to impress. She wasn't going to play whatever game this was. Except she didn't have a choice, did she? At precisely 10 o'clock, a black Mercedes sedan pulled up in front of her building. 2 men in dark suits got out. Maya recognized one. Marco, the man who'd grabbed her wrist last night. Her stomach clenched. Her phone buzzed. Your car is here. Maya took a deep breath, grabbed her jacket and purse, and headed downstairs. The November morning was bitter. Clouds threatening rain. A few neighbors stood on stoops, pretending not to watch as Maya approached the Mercedes. Marco opened the rear door. Up close, she could see a purple bruise on his jaw. Had Dante hit him after they left the restaurant? For bumping her? For grabbing her? Miss Torres, Marco said stiffly, gesturing to the open door. His eyes held barely contained hostility. Maya slid into the back seat. The interior smelled of leather and expensive cologne. Marco got in the driver's seat while the other man took the passenger side. Neither spoke as they pulled into traffic. Where are we going? Maya asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Mr. Russo will explain everything, the passenger said without turning around. They drove through Queens into Manhattan, then south toward Little Italy. The streets grew narrower, older, lined with Italian restaurants and social clubs that had been there for generations. This was Russo territory. Everyone knew it, even if the law couldn't prove it. The car stopped in front of a nondescript building with a green awning. A simple sign read, Società Dante, Dante Society. An old man sat outside despite the cold, reading a newspaper. He looked up as Maya emerged from the car, his weathered face impassive. Marco led her inside. The interior was surprisingly warm and elegant. Dark wood paneling, leather furniture, the scent of espresso and cigars. Old photographs lined the walls. Black and white images of stern men in suits from the 1920s, 30s, 40s, family history, legacy. Upstairs, Marco said, gesturing to a staircase. Maya climbed, her heart pounding. The second floor was quieter, more private. Marco knocked on a heavy wooden door. Entra, came Dante's voice from within. The door opened into an office that looked like it belonged in another era. Bookshelves lined with leather-bound volumes. A massive mahogany desk. Persian rugs over hardwood floors. A window looked out onto Mulberry Street below. And behind the desk sat Dante Russo, reviewing papers with a gold fountain pen in hand. He looked up as Maya entered, and that same unreadable expression crossed his face. He wore a black suit today, no tie, his shirt open at the collar. The mark from her slap was still faintly visible on his cheek. Maya, please sit. He gestured to a leather chair across from his desk. Coffee? Espresso? I'm fine, Maya said, remaining standing. Why am I here? Dante leaned back in his chair, studying her with those dark, intelligent eyes. You're here because you did something remarkable last night. Something no one has done in, well, let's just say a very long time. I made a mistake? No. He held up a hand. You made a choice. There's a difference. Marco grabbed you, inappropriately, I might add, and you defended yourself. The fact that you hit me instead of him is... He smiled slightly. Interesting. I wasn't aiming for you, weren't you? Dante stood, moving around the desk with that same predatory grace. I think you were. I think in that moment you saw who really had the power at that table, and you went straight for the source. That takes intelligence. And balls. He was close now, near enough that Maya could see the flecks of amber in his dark eyes. She forced herself not to step back. What do you want from me? She asked. I want to offer you a job. Whatever Maya had been expecting, it wasn't that. A job? I host private dinners, business meetings, events where discretion is paramount and the service needs to be impeccable. I need someone who can move through these spaces, serve my guests, and be trusted not to repeat what she sees or hears. He paused. Someone who isn't afraid of me. Everyone should be afraid of you, Maya said before she could stop herself. Dante laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his face. True, but fear makes people sloppy. Fear makes them desperate. You slapped me in front of my men and half of Manhattan's elite, and you're still standing here looking me in the eye. That's not fear. That's courage. Or insanity. Either way, I can use it. And if I say no? The amusement faded from his eyes. Then you walk out that door, go back to your life, and we never speak again. You keep the money, no hard feelings. It sounded too easy. That's it? That's it. Dante returned to his desk. Opening a drawer, he pulled out a manila folder and slid it across to Maya. But before you decide, you should know what I'm offering. Maya opened the folder. Inside was a contract. Her eyes widened as she scanned the numbers. $10,000 per event. Dante said calmly. Usually 2 to 3 events per week, plus tips, which at this level can be substantial. All cash. No taxes if you prefer. Maya's mind raced. That was more than she made in 3 months at Cristallo Rosso. In a year, she could pay off her mother's medical debts. She could go back to school, finish the degree she'd abandoned when her mother got sick. Why me? She asked. You could hire anyone. Someone with more experience, more. Because of what you did last night, Dante interrupted. Everyone at that table was afraid of me. Everyone in that restaurant was afraid of me. Except you. Even now, you're terrified, I can see it. But you're not letting it control you. That's rare. That's valuable. Maya looked down at the contract. 6 months minimum commitment. Confidentiality agreements. Termination clauses that were surprisingly reasonable. But beneath the legal language, she understood what this really was. An invitation into his world. Once she stepped through that door, there might be no stepping back. I need to think about it, she said. Of course. Dante wrote something on a piece of paper. This is my private number. You have until Monday to decide. If I don't hear from you by noon, I'll assume your answer is no, and we part ways. Maya took the paper, folding it carefully. And if someone tries to stop me from leaving? If they think I know too much? You're under my protection from the moment you walk through that door, Dante said simply. No one touches you without answering to me. That's not a threat. It's a promise. You're safe, Maya. Whether you work for me or not. She wanted to believe him. God help her. Part of her did believe him. Marco appeared to escort her back downstairs. As they reached the front door, Maya turned back. Dante had followed them down and stood at the base of the stairs, watching her. Why are you really doing this? Maya asked. There has to be more to it. Dante's expression was unreadable. Maybe I'm just curious to see what someone with nothing to lose might do with a little power. Or maybe, he paused, maybe I'm just tired of being surrounded by people who are too afraid to tell me the truth. The Mercedes drove Maya back to Queens in silence. When she got out in front of her building, Marco spoke for the first time since they'd left. For what it's worth, he said grudgingly. The boss hasn't smiled like that in years. I don't know if that's good or bad for you, but it's something. The car pulled away, leaving Maya standing on the sidewalk with a folder full of promises and a head full of questions. Her phone buzzed. Lisa again, more urgent now. Maya, call me now. I'm worried about you. Maya climbed the stairs to her apartment, locked the door behind her, and sat on her bed. The contract lay before her like a door to another life. A dangerous life. A life that could solve all her financial problems, or destroy her completely. She thought about her mother, about the final months in the hospital when they'd run out of insurance and started drowning in bills, about the funeral she'd paid for with credit cards, about the collection agency letters that arrived weekly, threatening legal action. She thought about Dante's eyes, intelligent and ruthless, and the way he'd smiled when she stood her ground. She thought about Marco's words. The boss hasn't smiled like that in years. Maya pulled out her laptop and did more research. Not about Dante this time, about his businesses, the legitimate ones. Restaurants, a few nightclubs, commercial real estate. On paper, he was just another successful Italian-American businessman. The truth lurked in the shadows behind that facade, but it was plausibly deniable. Could she do this? Could she walk into that world with her eyes open? Did she have a choice? Sunday passed in a blur of anxiety and second-guessing. Maya called Lisa back, made vague excuses about needing time to figure things out. She walked through Flushing Meadows Park, watching families with young children, couples holding hands, old men playing chess, normal people living normal lives. She wasn't sure she wanted normal anymore. Maybe she never had. Monday morning, 11:45 a.m. Maya stood outside her apartment building with her phone in her hand. Dante's private number pulled up on the screen. 15 minutes until his deadline. A text came through from her bank. Account overdrawn. Overdraft fee assessed. Another text from a collection agency. Final notice before legal proceedings. Maya looked up at the gray November sky, took a deep breath, and dialed. He answered on the first ring. Yes, I'll do it, Maya said. 6 months. But I have conditions. I'm listening. I want everything in writing. I want guarantees of safety. And I want out after 6 months, clean, no obligations, no debts, no strings. I walk away, and it's over. Silence on the line. Maya's heart hammered. Then, deal. Come to the club tomorrow at noon. We'll sign papers and discuss your first assignment. Welcome to the family, Maya. He hung up before she could respond. Maya stood on the sidewalk, phone still pressed to her ear, and wondered if she'd just made the best decision of her life or signed her own death warrant. A cold rain began to fall, and she didn't move. Somewhere across the city, in an office in Little Italy, Dante Russo was probably smiling that dangerous smile. Soon, his card had promised. Soon was now. The first event was in a penthouse overlooking Central Park. Maya stood in the service elevator with 2 other servers. Both men, both clearly experienced in working Dante's private functions. They wore the same uniform she did. Black slacks, crisp white shirt, black vest. Professional, invisible, the kind of staff that wealthy people trained themselves not to see. First time? One of them asked. His name was Vincent, mid-40s, with the weathered face of someone who'd seen too much and learned to keep his mouth shut. Is it obvious? Maya adjusted her vest for the 3rd time. You'll be fine. Just remember, see nothing, hear nothing, say nothing. Serve the food, refill the drinks, disappear. These aren't the kind of people you want remembering your face. The elevator doors opened onto a private foyer. The penthouse beyond was obscene in its luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows framing Manhattan's glittering skyline. Modern art that probably cost millions on the walls. Furniture that looked sculptural and uncomfortable. The kind of place where even the air felt expensive. Dante was already there, speaking with a silver-haired man in an immaculate suit. When he saw Maya, something flickered in his expression. Satisfaction, maybe, or amusement, but he didn't acknowledge her directly. She was staff. Invisible. The lesson started immediately. Over the next 3 hours, Maya served a 12-course tasting menu to 8 men who spoke in careful euphemisms about shipments and territories and our friends in Philadelphia. She poured wine worth more than her monthly rent, cleared plates of food that cost more than a week's groceries, and tried not to listen. But she heard everything. She heard them discuss a problem with a union organizer who was asking too many questions. She heard them laugh about a judge who'd been very reasonable after receiving a generous campaign contribution. She heard Dante negotiate a deal involving waterfront property that, from context, was almost certainly a cover for something illegal. And through it all, Dante commanded the room with effortless authority. His voice never rose, his manner remained courteous. But when he spoke, everyone listened, including Maya, though she pretended not to. When the guests finally left near midnight, Maya was exhausted. Vincent and the other server had already packed up the catering supplies and left. She was gathering the last of the glassware when Dante appeared behind her. Your first night, he said. Impressions? Maya kept her eyes on the wine glasses. I'm just here to serve, Mr. Russo. Dante, and you're here to do more than serve. He moved closer, not touching her but near enough that she could feel his presence. You're here to observe, to learn, to understand how my world works. I don't want to understand your world. Liar. His voice held amusement. You're curious. I can see it. That's why you took this job. Not just for the money. You want to know what it's like on the other side of the velvet rope. Maya turned to face him. They were alone in the penthouse, the city lights casting shadows across his face. He'd loosened his tie and he looked less like a mob boss and more like just a man. Handsome, dangerous, complicated. I took this job because I'm drowning in debt, she said. Don't romanticize it. I never romanticize anything. Dante pulled an envelope from his jacket and handed it to her. 10,000 as promised, plus 1,500 in tips. Not bad for your first night. Maya took the envelope, feeling the weight of the cash inside. $11,500 for one evening's work. It felt surreal. Same time Thursday, Dante said. Different location, a restaurant in Brooklyn I'm considering acquiring. Wear something nice. It's a more public venue. Another business dinner? A test. His eyes held hers. For the restaurant and for you. Sleep well, Maya. He left her standing there with an envelope full of money and a head full of questions she shouldn't be asking. The second event was indeed in Brooklyn, a upscale restaurant called La Perla in Carroll Gardens. This time, the gathering was larger, 20 people, including 2 women. Maya recognized one from gossip columns, the wife of a city councilman. The other was younger, beautiful, and seemed to know Dante well, too well. Jealousy surprised Maya with its sudden intensity. She had no right to feel possessive about a man she barely knew, a criminal who'd essentially forced her into this arrangement. And yet watching the beautiful woman touch Dante's arm, lean in to whisper something that made him smile, it bothered her. "That's Alessandra Mancini," Vincent murmured, as they prepared appetizers in the kitchen. "Daughter of the Mancini family. Old money, old connections. Rumor is Dante's supposed to marry her. Uniting the families, you know." Maya focused on arranging prosciutto on plates. "I don't need the gossip. In this world, gossip is intelligence, and intelligence keeps you alive." The dinner proceeded smoothly until dessert. Maya was clearing plates when she heard raised voices from Dante's end of the table. A younger man, early 30s, expensive suit, too much cologne, had drunk too much wine and was getting aggressive. "With all due respect, Dante, your father would have handled the union situation differently, more directly. Sometimes I think you've gone soft." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Everyone went silent. Dante's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes turned absolutely cold. "My father," Dante said quietly, "died in prison because he handled things directly. I've kept this family out of federal indictments for 10 years by being smart instead of brutal. If you think that's soft, Marco, perhaps you'd like to test that theory personally." Marco paled. "I didn't mean, I was just saying, you were questioning my leadership, in public, in front of guests." Dante stood, his movements controlled but radiating menace. "We'll discuss this privately. Tomorrow. For now, I think you should leave." Marco scrambled to his feet and fled. The dinner continued, but the mood had shifted. Maya saw the fear in people's eyes, the reminder that beneath Dante's civilized exterior lurked something far more dangerous. Later, as Maya helped break down the service station, Alessandra approached her. Up close, she was even more beautiful. Classic Italian features, designer dress, diamonds that caught the light. "You're new," Alessandra said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, ma'am." "How long have you been working for Dante?" "This is my second event." Alessandra studied her with eyes that saw too much. "Be careful. Dante has a way of drawing people into his orbit and making them forget who they really are. One day you're serving drinks, the next you're part of something you can't escape." "I'm just here temporarily." "That's what they all say." Alessandra's smile didn't reach her eyes. 6 months from now, you'll still be here. A year from now, you'll wonder why you ever thought you could leave. That's how he works. He doesn't trap you. He makes you want to stay." She walked away, leaving Maya unsettled. Was it a warning, a threat, or jealousy? The events continued through December. A charity gala at the plaza where Maya served champagne to politicians and judges who all seemed to know Dante personally. A private card game in a Tribeca loft where briefcases full of cash changed hands. A Christmas party at Società Dante where Dante's extended family, and Maya now understood these were family in the mob sense, gathered with their wives and children. That night surprised her most. Watching Dante interact with children who called him Uncle Dante, seeing him laugh genuinely as an old woman, someone's grandmother, scolded him in rapid Italian for not settling down and giving her great-grandchildren to spoil. For a few hours he seemed almost normal, almost human. "You look confused," a voice said beside her. Maya turned to find a woman about her age, dark hair and intelligent eyes, holding a glass of wine. She looked familiar, the same sharp bone structure as Dante, the same intense gaze. "I'm sorry, Sophia Russo, Dante's sister, and you're the famous Maya, the girl who slapped my brother and lived to tell about it." Sophia grinned. "I like you already. I wouldn't say famous. Are you kidding? That story has made the rounds in every Italian social club from here to Boston. You're a legend. Also possibly insane, but definitely a legend." Despite herself, Maya laughed. Sophia had an easy warmth that was completely different from Dante's controlled intensity. "Can I give you some advice?" Sophia's voice dropped, becoming more serious. "Sister to sister, woman to woman. Okay. My brother doesn't do anything without a reason. He didn't hire you just because you slapped him. He's testing something. Maybe you, maybe himself, I don't know. But Dante always has a plan. Sophia touched Maya's arm gently. Just be careful. I love my brother, but I'm not blind to what he is. This world, it consumes people. Don't let it consume you. Before Maya could respond, Dante appeared, moving through the crowd toward them with a smile that didn't quite hide his concern. Sophia, stop trying to scare away my best server, he said lightly. I'm not scaring her. I'm warning her. There's a difference. Sophia kissed her brother's cheek. Be good, Dante. For once in your life, be good. She disappeared into the crowd, leaving Maya alone with Dante. The party swirled around them. Laughter, music, the smell of traditional Italian food. For a moment, they stood in a bubble of silence. My sister worries too much, Dante said. Does she have reason to? He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Maya saw something complicated in his expression. Yes, he said finally. She does, but not for the reasons she thinks. Before Maya could ask what he meant, someone called for Dante's attention. He squeezed Maya's shoulder briefly, a touch that felt both protective and possessive, and walked away. Maya watched him go and realized Sophia was right. She was being drawn into Dante's orbit, and despite every warning bell in her head, part of her didn't want to resist. It was January 3rd when everything changed. Maya arrived at Dante's office for what she thought was a routine check-in. Instead, she found him standing at his window, tension in every line of his body. On his desk was a manila envelope. Sit down, Maya, he said without turning around. She sat. The envelope seemed to radiate menace. Do you know who Vincent Calabrese is? Dante asked. Maya searched her memory. I don't think so. He controls most of the drug trade in the outer boroughs. He's also been trying to expand into my territories for the past year. We've been negotiating. The way Dante said negotiating suggested it involved more than just conversation. What does this have to do with me? Dante finally turned, and his expression was grim. 3 years ago, your mother's cancer treatment bankrupted your family. You took out loans, maxed out credit cards, sold everything you had. But it still wasn't enough, so you went to a loan shark, a man named Tommy Benedetto. Maya's blood ran cold. She'd tried so hard to forget about Tommy, about the desperate night she'd walked into his office above a bar in Astoria and begged for $10,000 to cover her mother's final month of hospice care. How did you? I told you. I know everything about you. Dante picked up the envelope. Tommy Benedetto works for Vincent Calabrese, which means your debt, the $35,000 you still owe with interest, is owned by my enemy. The room tilted. I don't understand. What does that? It means Vincent knows you work for me, and he sees an opportunity. Dante opened the envelope and pulled out photographs. He spread them on the desk. Maya's hands shook as she looked at the images. Photos of her leaving Società Dante, photos of her at various events, photos of her apartment building, and one photo that made her stomach drop. Her and Dante, alone in the penthouse after her first event, standing close enough that it could be interpreted as intimate. He's going to use you, Dante said flatly. Either to spy on me, to get close to me, or simply to hurt me. Vincent knows the best way to attack isn't with guns. It's by finding a weakness and exploiting it. I'm not your weakness. Aren't you? Dante's eyes were hard. I brought you into this world, Maya. I put you at risk. That makes you my responsibility. Maya stood, anger overriding fear. I'm not some pawn in your mob games. I'm trying to pay off my debts and survive. And now your survival is tied to mine. Dante moved around the desk, gripping her shoulders. Not roughly, but firmly enough that she couldn't look away. Listen to me carefully. Vincent will contact you. He'll offer to clear your debt in exchange for information, or he'll threaten you. Either way, he'll try to use you against me. So what am I supposed to do? Dante released her, a humorless smile crossing his face. You're going to say yes. Maya stared. What? Vincent wants a spy? We'll give him one. You'll feed him information, carefully controlled information that I approve. You'll make him think he's using you when really you're working for me. You want me to be a double agent? Maya's voice rose in disbelief. Are you insane? I'm a waitress. I'm not a spy. You're someone Vincent thinks he can manipulate. That makes you perfect. Dante's voice softened slightly. I won't force you, but this is the only way to protect you and to clear your real debt. Help me with this, and when it's over, you walk away free, completely free, your debt erased, $50,000 in cash, and my guarantee that no one in my world will ever touch you. And if Vincent realizes I'm lying to him? Dante's jaw tightened. That won't happen. I won't let it. How can you promise that? Because you won't be alone. I'll be with you every step of the way. And because he hesitated, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Because I protect what's mine. The possessiveness in those words should have frightened Maya. Instead, it made her feel something else entirely. Something warm and dangerous and completely inappropriate. I need to think. You have until tomorrow. Dante handed her the envelope with the photos. Keep these. Remember what's at stake. Vincent won't wait long. Maya left the office in a daze. Outside, the January cold bit through her jacket, but she barely felt it. She walked aimlessly through Little Italy, clutching the envelope, trying to process what Dante had asked of her. Spy on a mob boss. Lie to a dangerous man. Risk her life for, what? Money? Freedom? Or was it something else? Something to do with the way Dante had looked at her when he said, "What's mine?" Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her heart hammered as she answered. Maya Torres? A man's voice, unfamiliar, with a thick Brooklyn accent. Who is this? A friend. Someone who can help you with your financial problems. I think we should meet. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., the coffee shop on Steinway Street in Astoria. Come alone. Don't mention this to anyone, especially not to Dante Russo. The line went dead. Maya stood frozen on the street corner as snowflakes began to fall. Vincent Calabresi hadn't wasted any time. The trap was already being set. She looked down at the envelope in her hands, at the photos of her life being watched and catalogued. She thought about her mother, about the debt that had been crushing her for 3 years, about the impossible choice Dante was offering her. Freedom on one side, danger on the other, and in the middle, a mobster who looked at her like she was something precious and breakable and worth protecting. Maya pulled out her phone and typed a message to Dante. He already called. Meeting tomorrow at 2. What do I do? The response came within seconds. Say yes. I'll prep you tonight. Come to my place at 8. Maya stared at the message. His place. Not his office. His home. The line between professional and personal was blurring faster than she could track. She typed back, "Okay." And with that single word, Maya stepped fully into the underworld. No more pretending she was just a waitress working a temporary job. She was in it now, tangled in mob politics, caught between two dangerous men and walking a tightrope where one wrong step could be fatal. The snow fell harder, blanketing Little Italy in white. Maya pulled her coat tighter and started walking toward the subway. She had 12 hours until she saw Dante again. 12 hours to decide if she was brave enough or foolish enough to become a spy in a war she didn't understand. The answer, she realized with equal parts terror and exhilaration, was yes. Dante's home wasn't what Maya expected. She'd imagined something ostentatious. A mansion in the Hamptons, perhaps, or a palatial estate with security gates and armed guards. Instead, the address he'd given her led to a historic brownstone in Brooklyn Heights. Elegant but understated, the kind of place a successful lawyer or doctor might own. The door opened before she could knock. Dante stood there in jeans and a black sweater, the most casual she'd ever seen him. Without the armor of his suits, he looked younger, more approachable, almost normal. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. The interior matched the exterior. Tasteful, comfortable, surprisingly warm. Hardwood floors, exposed brick, furniture that looked lived in rather than showroom perfect. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with everything from Italian literature to military history. A fire crackled in the fireplace. "This is where you live?" Maya couldn't hide her surprise. "Were you expecting a throne room?" Dante's mouth quirked. "I saved the intimidation for work. Home is different." He led her to a study off the main living area. A large table was covered with papers, photographs, maps of Brooklyn and Queens with various locations marked. This was a war room, Maya realized. This was where Dante planned his moves. "Coffee? Wine?" he offered. "Coffee. Strong." While Dante disappeared into the kitchen, Maya studied the materials on the table. She recognized some of the locations: warehouses, restaurants, social clubs. Vincent Calabresi's territories were marked in red, Dante's in blue. There was a lot of purple where they overlapped. Contested ground. Dante returned with 2 espresso cups. "Let's start with what you need to know about Vincent." For the next hour, he briefed her. Vincent Calabresi was old school, violent, unpredictable. He'd taken over his father's operation 15 years ago and expanded aggressively. He dealt primarily in drugs and illegal gambling, with side ventures into loan sharking and protection rackets. Unlike Dante, who'd been trying to legitimize his family's businesses. Vincent embraced the criminal side openly. "He's dangerous," Dante said bluntly. "Not because he's smart. He's not. But because he's willing to be brutal when others would negotiate. He doesn't care about collateral damage." "And you do?" Dante met her eyes. "I care about unnecessary casualties. There's a difference. In this life, violence is sometimes required, but Vincent uses it as a first resort. I use it as a last one." Maya wasn't sure if that distinction mattered, but she nodded. "Tomorrow, when you meet him, he'll try to intimidate you," Dante continued. "He'll bring up your debt, probably mention your mother's suffering. He'll make it personal to establish control. Don't let him see fear. Don't let him see defiance either. You need to seem desperate enough to be useful but smart enough to be valuable. What information do I give him? Start with small truths. Tell him about the events you've worked, locations, approximate number of guests, general topics of conversation. Nothing specific enough to be actionable, but enough to seem genuine." Dante pulled out a notebook. "I've written down exactly what you should say. Memorize it." Maya spent the next 2 hours studying the script Dante had created. It was brilliant in its deception. Everything she would tell Vincent was true, but stripped of context or useful detail. She'd seem like a spy while actually revealing nothing. "What if he asks about us?" Maya said finally. "About you and me personally?" Dante looked up from the map he'd been studying. "What about us? He has photos that make it look like there's something between us." "And is there?" The question hung in the air. Maya's heart hammered. This was dangerous territory, more dangerous than spying on mob bosses. "I don't know," she admitted. "Is there?" Dante stood and moved closer. In the firelight, his features were softer, the hard edges of the crime boss melting away to reveal something more human underneath. "I hired you because you weren't afraid to hit me," he said quietly. "But I kept you because every time I see you, you surprise me. You're smart, observant, braver than you think. And yes, Maya, there's something between us. I'm just not sure either of us should acknowledge it. Because of who you are, because of what I am." His hand came up, fingers brushing her cheek gently. "I'm trying to build something better than what my father left me. Something less brutal, more legitimate. But I'm still a criminal. I still hurt people when necessary. I'm not a good man, Maya. I'm just trying to be a better one." Maya should step back, should maintain professional distance. Instead, she leaned into his touch. "My mother used to say good and bad aren't as simple as people think," she whispered. "She said everyone's just trying to survive with whatever tools they have. Your mother sounds like she was wise." She was, and stubborn, and fierce. Maya's eyes burned. She would have hated that I'm in debt because of her, hated that I'm here, doing this. Would she? Dante's thumb traced her jawline. Or would she be proud that her daughter is strong enough to face her fears and smart enough to turn a bad situation to her advantage? Before Maya could answer, his phone buzzed. Dante stepped back, the moment breaking as he checked the message. His expression darkened. "What is it?" Maya asked. "Vincent just moved on one of my gambling operations in Queens. Sent his people in to smash the place up, hurt 2 of my guys." Dante's voice was ice. "He's escalating, making a statement." "What kind of statement?" "That he's not afraid of me, that he thinks I've gone soft." Dante's jaw tightened. "He's wrong." Maya watched as Dante made a series of phone calls, his voice calm but absolutely authoritative as he issued orders. This was the mob boss, calculated, ruthless, commanding. When he hung up, he looked at Maya with something like regret. "I need to handle this. Can you see yourself out?" "Of course." As Maya gathered her things, Dante caught her wrist gently. "Maya, tomorrow when you meet Vincent, remember that you're not alone. I'll have people watching. If anything goes wrong, if you feel unsafe for even a second, you walk out. Understood?" "Understood." "And Maya?" His fingers tightened slightly. "After tomorrow, there's no going back. Once you start lying to Vincent, you're all in. Are you sure about this?" Maya thought about her debt, about her mother, about the strange pull she felt toward this dangerous, complicated man, about the fact that for the first time in years, she felt like she had power instead of being powerless. "I'm sure," she said. Dante held her gaze for a long moment, then released her. "Be safe. Call me when it's done." Maya left the brownstone and walked to the subway through Brooklyn's quiet streets. The January night was brutally cold, but she barely felt it. Her mind raced with everything she needed to remember, everything she needed to do. Tomorrow she would sit across from a mob boss and lie to his face. Tomorrow she would become a spy in a war between criminals. Tomorrow everything could go catastrophically wrong. But tonight, she'd stood in Dante Russo's home and seen the man beneath the monster. And that, somehow, was the most dangerous thing of all. The coffee shop on Steinway Street was the kind of place that had been there for decades. Cracked vinyl booths, formica tables, the smell of burnt coffee and old grease. Maya arrived 10 minutes early and chose a booth near the back with a clear view of the entrance. At exactly 2 p.m., 3 men walked in. The one in the middle was clearly Vincent Calabrese. Mid-50s, thick build, expensive but tasteless clothes, a gold watch, too many rings, a leather jacket that probably cost thousands but looked cheap. His face was heavy, with small eyes that constantly assessed and calculated. The 2 men flanking him were obvious muscle, large, intimidating, scanning the room for threats. Vincent spotted Maya and smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. He slid into the booth across from her while his men took positions nearby, one at the counter, one by the door, trapping her. "Maya Torres," Vincent said. His voice was rough, like he'd spent years smoking. "You're prettier than your photo." "Mr. Calabrese?" Maya kept her voice steady. "You said you could help with my financial situation." "Straight to business, I like that." He signaled the waitress. "Coffee and bring the lady whatever she wants." "I'm fine." "You sure? You look nervous." "I'm meeting with a stranger who knows my personal business. That tends to make people nervous." Vincent laughed, a harsh barking sound. "Fair enough. Let's talk about your business then. You owe Tommy Benedetto 35 grand with interest. Been paying it down slow, but at your current rate you'll be an old woman before you're clear. That sound about right?" Maya nodded, hating how accurate it was. "Now Tommy works for me, which means your debt is to me. And I'm a businessman, Maya. I don't like letting money sit on the books when I could be making deals." He leaned forward. "So here's my offer. You give me information about Dante Russo, his operations, his meetings, his plans, and I'll clear your debt. All of it. You walk away clean. And if I say no?" Vincent's smile vanished. "Then the interest rate goes up, way up, and Tommy gets creative about collection methods. You got anyone who cares about you, Maya? Friends? That pretty roommate of yours? Would be a shame if something happened because you weren't cooperative." Rage flared in Maya's chest, but she forced it down. This was exactly what Dante had predicted. She made herself look frightened, which wasn't hard, and uncertain. "What kind of information?" she asked quietly. "Everything. Who he meets with, what they talk about, where his money comes from, where he's vulnerable." Vincent sat back satisfied. "You work his private events, right? You hear things. You see things. All you gotta do is share. He'll know. Dante's not stupid. Dante thinks he's untouchable, thinks he's smarter than everyone else." Vincent's voice dripped contempt. "But everyone has blind spots. You're his. The waitress who slapped him and lived. He's got a thing for you. Anyone with eyes can see it. He trusts you. That's his mistake." Maya let silence stretch as if considering. "Finally, if I do this, how do I know you'll actually clear my debt? Because I'm a man of my word." Vincent pulled out a piece of paper and slid it across the table. "This is your current balance. Do this right. And when it's done, I'll give you the original loan papers. Marked paid in full. You'll be free." Maya looked at the number. $38,450. 3 years of her life. All because she'd loved her mother and didn't want her to die in pain. "What do you need to know?" she asked and watched Vincent's smile return. For the next 20 minutes, Maya fed him the information Dante had prepared. She described events she'd worked. The penthouse dinner, the restaurant in Brooklyn, the Christmas party. She mentioned names of people who'd been there, conversations she'd overheard, but kept everything vague enough to be useless. Vincent ate it up, his small eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Good," he said when she finished. "This is good. You got a phone I can reach you on?" Maya gave him a burner phone number, one Dante had provided specifically for this purpose. "I'll be in touch. Couple times a week, you'll get a call. You answer, you tell me what you know. Simple." Vincent stood. "And Maya, don't try to play both sides. Don't think about warning Dante. I've got eyes everywhere. You betray me, and that debt will be the least of your problems. We clear?" "Crystal clear." Vincent dropped a $50 bill on the table. "Coffee's on me. Welcome to the team." He left with his men, the bell above the door chiming mockingly as they walked out. Maya sat frozen in the booth, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. She'd done it. She'd lied to Vincent Calabrese's face and he'd believed her. Her hands shook as she pulled out her real phone and texted Dante. "It's done. He bought it." The response came immediately. "Good. Stay there. Someone's coming to get you." 5 minutes later, Marco appeared at the coffee shop. His expression was respectful now, completely different from their first meeting. "Miss Torres, the boss wants to see you." He drove her back to the brownstone. Dante was waiting in the study, pacing like a caged predator. When Maya entered, he crossed to her in 3 strides and gripped her shoulders, searching her face. "Are you all right? Did he threaten you? Did he—" "I'm fine." Maya was surprised by how protective he was being. "It went exactly like you said. He offered to clear my debt for information. I gave him what we prepared. He believed every word." Dante released a breath, some of the tension leaving his body. "You're sure?" "Positive. He thinks he owns me now." "Good." Dante moved to the table and made a check mark on a timeline he'd drawn. "This gives us time. Vincent will think he has an inside source. He'll get comfortable, maybe make mistakes. Meanwhile, we'll feed him exactly what we want him to know." "How long does this go on?" "Until I have enough to take him down completely." Dante looked up, his eyes hard. "Vincent made a mistake targeting you. He gave me the perfect weapon, and he doesn't even know it." Maya sank into a chair, exhaustion hitting her suddenly. She'd just become a double agent in a mob war. The reality of it was overwhelming. "Hey." Dante knelt beside her chair, his hand covering hers. "You did perfectly. I'm proud of you." Those words, "I'm proud of you," hit Maya harder than she expected. When was the last time someone had said that? Her mother, probably years ago. "What happens if he finds out?" she whispered. "What I'm really doing?" "He won't." Dante's voice was absolute certainty. "I won't let anything happen to you, Maya, I swear it." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe that this dangerous, complicated, criminal man could actually keep her safe. "Why are you really doing this?" Maya asked. "The truth. It's not just about Vincent, is it?" Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "My father ruled through fear, brutality. He made people hate and fear our family. When I took over, I promised myself I'd be different, build something that could last, that could become legitimate someday. But men like Vincent, they see that as weakness. They think I've gone soft. So this is about proving you haven't?" "No." Dante's thumb traced circles on her hand. "This is about protecting what matters. My family, my people, and yes, Maya, you. Because somewhere along the way you became part of what I'm trying to protect." The admission hung between them, heavy with implication. Maya knew she should pull away, should maintain boundaries. Instead, she turned her hand over and laced her fingers through his. "This is insane," she whispered. "All of it." "I know." Dante lifted her hand and pressed his lips to her knuckles, a gesture that was somehow both old-fashioned and intimate. "But you're not alone in the insanity anymore." They stayed like that for a long moment, hands clasped, the fire crackling in the background. Outside, Brooklyn continued its evening routine, completely unaware that in this brownstone, a waitress and a mob boss were forging an alliance that would change everything. Maya's phone buzzed. The burner Vincent had called. Her first check-in. "It's starting," she said. Dante squeezed her hand once more, then released it. "Then let's give him a show." 3 months later, Maya stood at her mother's grave in Queens, wrestling with an impossible decision. The operation against Vincent had been successful. Devastatingly so. Using the information Maya fed him, Dante had maneuvered Vincent into a series of catastrophic mistakes. Federal agents, tipped off through anonymous channels, had raided Vincent's operations. His network was dismantled, his assets frozen, and Vincent himself was facing decades in prison. Maya's debt was gone. Dante had ensured that. She had $50,000 in a bank account, clean money, from legitimate sources. She was free to walk away just as he'd promised. So why couldn't she leave? "I don't know what to do, Mom," Maya whispered to the headstone. "He's a criminal. He's dangerous. But he's also complicated. He protected me. He saw me as more than just a tool." The wind carried no answers, only the distant sounds of the city. Her phone rang. "Dante, there's someone here who wants to meet you," he said. "Can you come to Cristallo Rosso?" The restaurant where it all began. Maya's heart raced as she agreed. An hour later, Maya walked into the familiar space. It looked different now. Dante had bought it, renovated it, transformed it into something even more elegant. And standing near the bar was Dante, dressed in a sharp navy suit, looking every inch the successful businessman he was becoming. "Maya?" He smiled, genuine warmth in his expression. I have a proposition. He led her to a private office. On the desk was a contract. I'm opening a new restaurant, Dante explained. Completely legitimate. No front for anything. No illegal operations. Just a high-end establishment that happens to be owned by someone with a complicated past. I want you to manage it. Maya stared at the contract. The salary was more than generous. The terms were clear, professional. Why me? Because you're smart, capable, and you understand both worlds, the legitimate and the shadow side. Because you're not afraid to call me on my bullshit. Dante moved closer. And because somewhere in the last 6 months, you became the person I trust most in this world. Dante, I'm not asking you to be part of my criminal operations. I'm asking you to help me build something clean, something legitimate. He paused. I'm asking you to take a chance on me, on us. Maya looked at the contract, then at Dante. She thought about her mother, about courage, about the fact that sometimes the best choices weren't the safe ones. I have conditions, she said finally. Name them. I run the restaurant my way. No interference from your other business. If I see anything illegal, I walk. No questions, no consequences. Agreed. And whatever this is between us, Maya gestured between them. We figure it out honestly. No games, no manipulation. Dante's smile was small but real. I can do honest. It might be harder than lying, but I can try. Maya picked up the pen, her hand steady. Then let's build something better. She signed. 6 months later, Maya stood in La Forza, the Strength, her restaurant, watching the opening night crowd. Critics, food bloggers, and curious New Yorkers filled the space. The kitchen hummed with controlled chaos. Everything was perfect. Dante appeared beside her, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. He looked relaxed, proud, different somehow from the dangerous man she'd first met. To new beginnings, he said, offering her a glass. To courage, Maya countered. They clinked glasses, and in that moment, Maya understood. She hadn't escaped the darkness or surrendered to it. She'd done something more difficult. She'd carved out her own space within it on her own terms. The slap that started everything had led her here. Not to safety, not to danger, but to something more complex. A partnership, a possibility, a future she was building with her own hands. Dante's hand found hers under the bar, fingers intertwining. No regrets? He asked quietly. Maya looked around her restaurant, at the life she'd created from chaos, and smiled. Not a single one. Outside, New York glittered with a million stories. Inside, a waitress who'd slapped a mob boss and a criminal trying to go legitimate stood together, proof that sometimes the most unexpected choices led to the most extraordinary transformations. The end was just another beginning.